I'm going to talk more broadly about life after Google, about decentralization, and the economic theories, the economic basis behind everything we're doing. We've seen at this conference amazing apps, amazing open source projects, crypto changing the world. But where does it actually fit in with everything else? So I'm talking about life after Google. I'm talking about Ronald Coase and Coase's Penguin being Linux and open source. How does this all fit together? How does the clicker work? Okay, Life After Google is a very recently published book by George Gilder. Now, George Gilder is one of the rolled gold economists and futurists of the world. He was Ronald Reagan's favorite author, hugely influential in the Reagan administration. He wrote a book 25 years ago called Life After Television, where he predicted everything we have today. The iPhones, Google Maps, messaging, everything that we have today, he predicted that, and he was right about that. And he's come up with a new book called Life After Google, which is predicting that blockchain-based decentralization is going to take over from the current Google-centric model of the world. And he calls it the cryptocosm. So I'm going to adopt that term, the cryptocosm, because in my speeches and things, I just say the crypto industry, the crypto community, how do we describe ourselves? So from now on, I'm going to talk about the cryptocosm. It's everyone in crypto. It's the new universe that's being created by Steem, by everyone in the crypto space that's creating a new decentralized world. We're going to look at where that world can take us. So, in the cryptocosm, security is not a procedure or a mechanism. It's not an add-on. It's a fundamental part of the architecture. It's the private keys. It's what underlies who we are, the fundamental identifier of ourselves in this new space. It's a decentralized, bottom-up architecture, not the centralized thing where Facebook and Google control our entire lives and harvest all our data and monetize us. Power and financial rewards reside with users, not with the centralized trusted party. Users regain control of their content, security, and privacy. Now, most people here know this. This is what they're here for, because we are Steemians. We're in crypto. But what most people aren't thinking about is the broader picture. We have collective self-governance. Steem votes, up votes and down votes. Steem it is a far more civilized place for discussion, even on controversial topics, than any other platform I've been on. Centralized platforms like Google and Facebook deliberately provoke people into trolling each other and behaving badly to each other because it gets people on the platform. I gave up Facebook 2 years ago when I realized it was provoking me. The algorithm was provoking me to, with opinions that I would disagree with in order to get me to engage with the platform. That's what it does. We say people behave badly on Facebook and Google, on the current platforms. It's because the platforms encourage bad behavior. But Steem encourages good behavior. It's the cryptocosm. And also, no authoritarian censorship. AgroEd spoke at the start of this yesterday about the censorship on Facebook and Google. No censorship. Self-governance, but no absolute censorship, no authoritarian censorship. Okay, so here we are. This is an infographic showing the multitude of Web 3.0, of crypto projects that are competing with all the existing Web 2.0 projects. It's very important to understand that in every area, retail and entertainment, personal ticketing, content monetization, Internet of Things, web search, every single area of the whole internet, there are crypto players who are coming up with better solutions and competing with the old models, and particularly competing with Google and Facebook, who of course control much of the existing internet. So what is the cryptocosm? What are we doing? We know what we're doing in detail, creating new apps, blogging, putting videos up, all these sorts of things. But where does this fit into economic theory, into the understanding of human organization? In 1937, Ronald Coase wrote a paper called The Nature of the Firm, for which he won a Nobel Prize in economics. And what he said is that there are two forms of human economic organization. There's the firm, companies, people working for companies, and there's the free market. And he asked the question, the free market is, what works in general amongst firms. Why don't we have a free market within firms? Why isn't everyone a free agent? Firms themselves are hierarchical, centralized structures. Why do we have that? And he also asked the question in the reverse, because he was in the era of communism. He said, well, why don't we have a completely centralized economy like the Soviet Union was? Why can't you do that? And the answers were that each model, the free market and the firm, have different advantages and disadvantages, different costs. And so a firm will expand to a certain size when it becomes inefficient for it to expand, and another firm will take the place. And there's competition between those firms and a free market. So he said there were two forms of economic organizations. And he won a Nobel Prize for this. It's really fundamental. But now we have something new that's neither the firm, a centralized firm, or a free market. Yochai Benkler wrote in 2001 a paper called Coase's Penguin about open source peer production, the penguin, of course, being Linux. And he posited a third form of economic production, peer production. And it's really from open source peer production that the whole decentralized cryptocurrency space arises. So we need to understand what that actually is. What the cryptocosm does, the real innovation, of course, is to add financial rewards and add a financial structure to peer production. Pure open source, people don't get paid. They do it for other reasons, and they create amazing pieces of software. Linux, Wikipedia, so much of the software relied on is done for free by open source collaboration. But cryptocurrencies add a whole new dimension to it. It integrates peer production with the free market and the firm, because the free market and the firm operate on money, whereas peer production didn't. This integration of peer production, of open source production with the free market and the firm changes everything. It vastly expands the scope of peer production beyond geeks. Because, the reality is most peer production is done by geeks, but cryptocurrency gives us a much broader world, and we see this already in Steem. So cryptocosm is the integration of all three economic forms by a flexible new type of money. Where is it superior? It's superior where the main component of something, of what you're producing, is human creative intellect. That's the main input. It's no good if your main input is aluminium or steel, but if the main input is human creative intellect, that's where peer production excels. And it's where information and allocation efficiency benefits exceed costs. And I'll talk about what they are, why open source works, even when people weren't paid. Peer consumption gives users control over content, security, and privacy. It's fundamentally superior to the centralized authoritarian Googleplex model. And I think, I'm preaching to the converted on this, but it's important to understand that there's two sides to this. There's the consumer side, where we want a decentralized solution as users, and there's the production side, which of course things like Utopian and things support, of how these things are created and how people are recompensed for their work. So two key areas of disruption: money, banking, finance, insurance, and the information economy, the whole online economy. But note here that it's not the whole world. We do have to realize that there are limitations. There's no point in decentralizing a steel mill. There's no point in decentralizing an airline. There's no point in decentralizing roads or car manufacturing or many other things. It's a big scope, the whole online world, and finance and banking and money, but it's not everything, because ultimately the economy will find the most efficient ways to do things. And peer production, the cryptocosm, is the most efficient way in the online and financial world. So, what are these benefits? The first one is information efficiency. It is that in peer production, people identify for themselves who has the best set of skills for a particular job. The person themselves knows whether they've got the best set of skills and the motivation to do that. Not some boss who says, go do that, but you might be crap at that. But you decide what you want to do. And that's why open source works, because people pick the jobs that they know they're best at. The second thing is allocation efficiency. A firm can only be so big. It's limited, as Coase talked about. So it can only have a certain number of people working for it and a certain resource matrix that can be addressed. But open source allows a much larger group of people to address a much larger resource matrix, and that means it's much more efficient. So that's why even when open source had no payment associated with it, it was already super competitive in the world of software and other creative content. But there are costs, and as a crypto community, we need to talk about and understand those costs as well. Founders relinquish entrepreneurial control over the enterprise in a true decentralized model. That's the nature of decentralization. Being an entrepreneur is a centralized function, telling people what to do, directing the enterprise. When you decentralize, you have to relinquish that entrepreneurial control. And that's a difficult thing for entrepreneurs. It's something that every crypto project struggles with, the extent to which the founders move out. Satoshi Nakamoto just walked out from the start, but in many other projects, they're still around. How much they've released control is controversial, how much is decentralized. But you have to understand that consensus-based decision-making is slow and involves a lot more politics. So it works with Bitcoin, where it's just something stable and a currency and it does what it's going to do. That's fine. But when you have to move more quickly and adjust to the market, sometimes decentralization or full decentralization is not the best option. And we'll talk about hybrids, of how that's addressed. Founders give away ownership of the enterprise at the beginning. Now that's hard. You don't have any chance for Google and Facebook to buy you out. I'll talk about this later. You give away control at the beginning. You have your tokens and you hope that those tokens do well, but there's no chance of the golden exit. A decentralized enterprise can't be sold or bought. The open source IP can't be bought or sold. It's inherently unable to be sold, so you can't have an exit. Token appreciation, rather than profit, is the main financial reward. And there's currently an issue with the holding and allocation of ICO funds. All these Swiss foundations that hold these ICO funds, they weren't designed for this purpose. They're not for profits. They've got very limited goals, and if a crypto player wants to diversify into another area, they're going to have problems with their foundation. We're seeing this all the time, and it's a real issue that the crypto industry needs to deal with. What we're seeing now, and we're seeing on the Steem ecosystem, is the rise of hybrids. The cryptocosm allows hybrids of all three economic forms: the firm, the free market, and peer production, which maximizes the benefits and minimizes the costs. All the apps that we see on top of the Steem platform, Steem Monsters, Apex, all these things are a hybrid, because they are partly operating as a firm and partly operating in a decentralized peer production manner. And they're getting the benefits of both and minimizing the detriments. And that's why this is, at a fundamental economic level, it's a superior form that will prevail. It's not just because we think it will prevail because it's fundamentally more efficient, and more efficient economic forms will prevail. The Steem blockchain is very interesting because it's decentralized what it considers, or the Steem founders consider, the most important things. It's decentralized money and control. But it hasn't necessarily decentralized every aspect. Like, DTube, you don't have to decentralize, your video storage to be a good solution on a blockchain. It could be an efficient manner, but it doesn't have to be. You've got to look at what needs to be decentralized and what's actually efficient. So we see this decentralization, the blockchain provides the infrastructure, and it has enabled projects which are hybrids of the firm and peer production, Steam Monsters, Utopian, etc. We've heard some amazing talks today, and all of these are examples of this. They're all competing, they are hybrid of firm and peer production, and they're competing in a free market using Steam. So all three forms of production are working together, and that is something new, completely new in the world of economics. So, Facebook and Google. Facebook and Google developed some clever code 15 years ago, and they've now eaten the internet. How have they eaten the internet? They've eaten the internet because they've had a strategic business model of acquiring early stage startups, any promising startup that could be competitive with them in the future, they've acquired, and thus they've end-run antitrust law that's supposed to stop people turning into massive monopolies because the tech space moves so quickly and the regulators don't have a clue, and they've just eaten up the internet. Why is it, you have to ask yourself a basic question. Why is a search algorithm firm owning so much of the internet? How did that happen? Search is like this much of the internet. Well, it happened because they were able to monetize first and then buy everything up. The same with Facebook. Social media is like this much of the internet. How come they own everything else? Because they monetized first and then they bought up everything else that could compete with them, and now they own the internet, and now they're starting to behave really badly. The cryptocosm threatens them at two levels. It creates competitors that can't be bought. I don't think that can be said strongly enough. People don't understand this. It creates competitors that can't be bought. It fundamentally undermines Facebook and Google's expansion by acquisition business model. And the second thing is, obviously, as we've talked about, that the fundamental product of the cryptocosm of decentralization is a superior model that provides users control over their security, content, and privacy. George Gilder says that under the Google model, there's so little security, all power and money flows to the top because the system's completely broken. And in the cryptocosm, security will be the absolute core, and thus the power and money will be at the bottom, will be with all the users, with all of you, with all of us, not with big authoritarian companies. So what did they do? What did they do? They control 66% of all online advertising, and they launched a massive censorship attack on their cryptocosm competitors. The crypto ad ban started on the 30th of January 2018, and a week later, the crypto markets were down 53%. Now, we all know crypto markets were volatile, but they weren't that volatile. And it's very common if a company's share price drops by 10 or 20% when something happens, there's a class action against that company straight away. This was a 53% drop. Not only was there negative effects on the markets, but cryptocosm projects struggled for the mainstream. A lot of people have talked about this at the conference, struggling for the mainstream. How do we get to the mainstream? The advertising to the mainstream is blocked. Normies use Facebook and Google, and so you can't get to them as a crypto project. It's very hard. It's caused a lot of damage. This ad ban is illegal. It's an anti-competitive action that is illegal under Australian law, probably European law as well. Under Australian law, we can sue them for anti-competitive cartel conduct, enabling claims for damages for all the losses that everyone suffered in the markets going down, all the losses that everyone suffered in their projects being able to advertise. We can sue them for the lot. That's $400 billion we're talking about here. And I don't use that term lightly. People think $400 billion. That's what the market dropped. $300 billion when Facebook announced, and then another $100 billion when Google announced. So Australia has jurisdiction over Facebook and Google because they do business in Australia and they have large subsidiaries. Australia has good class action law and has a very clear breach of Australia's competition law. We're suing for damages. We're organising a class action by the crypto industry. Everyone and anyone in the crypto industry can join up, and you should join up. I'll explain why. To recover your losses, if you're down 50% on your crypto holdings, a significant percentage of that is going to be recoverable from the market drops and your project setbacks. A lot of projects have been badly set back by the crypto ad ban. And also, it's not just about money. It's about fighting back against this illegal censorship and attack on the cryptocosm. Look, we are making a better world. We are making a world where users control their privacy, content, and their security. They accused us of being like binary options. We should be outraged because it is outrageous what they did. And we're going to make sure they don't get away with it. So, the class action. It's free to sign up. It's a no-win, no-fee litigation where effectively by signing up, you're giving 30% of whatever damages you get to the people that are organising it, which will help fund it. We're tokenising the damages, so the token holders will get 25% of the damages, and JPB Liberty for organising it will get 5%, and that's how we're going to be raising funds to do the action. We've already got a lot of people signed up, and we're getting close to the stage of starting to write letters of demand, legal letters to Facebook and Google. We've got all the legals sorted out. I'm a lawyer, and I've done all the research on that. We've now got barristers in Australia giving us advice. So we really encourage everyone in crypto to sign up, particularly everyone here at this conference to sign up, because if you don't sign up and it settles early, you'll miss out. If it goes to court, hopefully we'll recover everyone's losses, but it could well settle early. And in order to support this, the more people we've got, the more value we've got when we go to Google and Facebook and say, pay up, you've breached the law, the better. The more powerful our claim will be. And the also more powerful it will be in demanding that they immediately stop the crypto ad ban, because they haven't stopped it. There was some slight modifications that meant only really big players who had licenses or were listed could get some advantage if they were in Japan or the US. It's just such limited exceptions. Most people still can't advertise. Important, it's confidential and anonymous. We're in the crypto space. Our privacy is very important. You don't have to give any personal details. You sign up with a username of your own invention and 2 contact details, which can be new if you want them to be new. You're not on any court papers. It's not disclosed to anybody. It's just JPB Liberty has this information. It's not disclosed to anybody. It's confidential and anonymous, so you can be secure. You're not giving any personal information in the first place, but even the limited information you are giving and verifying your crypto holdings is kept confidentially and securely. And also, there's bonus tokens for signing up and for referring others to sign up. So when you sign up, you'll get a referral code to be able to sign other people up. Because, of course, we're in the crypto industry. The tokens that are being sold to fundraise and that share in the percentage of damages are also given away as bonus for people signing up, depending on your crypto holdings. So I ask you to join now to secure your place in an early settlement. The details are here. You can scan that and go straight to the sign up. There's a website with lots of information. My details also are there. If you want to speak to me, we've got a team of people in Australia and Israel working on this. And fight the good fight, because we will win in the end. But if we don't use all the legal rights we have, we're going to be held back. So we need to fight the fight and recover our losses. So thanks very much for listening today.